Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
Companies that were happy to pay the made-for-internet rates now realize they could pay less. And I don't know that they necessarily got in new work that would have been non-union. So frequently I see non-union rates that are actually better than union rates, which is crazy.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bobby, how have you been? It seems like it's been forever since we've done a podcast.
I think it has been forever.
Even though we do one every single week, sometimes we plan ahead and do them in advance. But this is the first time we've recorded in like 2-3 weeks, I think.
It has, and shoot, we're coming up on the holidays. It's crazy.
I know, and we have a very exciting guest. I'm so glad, and it's due to Bobby's connection that we have this esteemed guest coming up in just a couple of minutes. But it's Sumeet Lyengar from Cope Management. Bobby, what is your relationship with Sumeet?
Well, I've taken a couple of workshops with him. I met him at a political conference earlier this year in D.C. We chatted there, and I took a couple of his workshops, as I said, and I've just had my eye on him. I mean, I had submitted to Debbie Cope a long time ago, and then when Sumeet took over, I thought, you know what, we should have him on the podcast because he's done a little bit of everything in the industry. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to add.
I love that. We've been wanting a manager's and agent's perspective for a hot minute now. So let's go ahead and not let him wait anymore. He is in the room. Let us let him in. We're so excited to have this guest. We just mentioned it. We've been wanting to have a manager and or agent on the podcast for a while, and we couldn't ask for a better guest this go round. Sumeet Lyengar, partner for Cope Management. Thanks for joining us on the Making Waves VO podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And Bobby and you go a ways back. I was just talking to Bobby a second ago about your history. Bobby, if you want, take it over from here, and I'll let you give a more formal introduction for Sumeet.
Sure. Yeah. As I was mentioning, I first met Sumeet earlier this year at a political convention, the Reeds in D.C., and flagged him down because I just wanted to say hello and have been kind of following him, going from an agent to a manager for several years now. So, and then been in a couple of your workshops. We just did one recently. It was a lot of fun. So I'm glad that I could be a part of that. But yeah, tell us about what's going on with you at Cope. How long have you been there now?
About 2.5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's kind of just flown by, but yeah, I was an agent for a long time, as you mentioned, and still in touch with the agents over there. This was at CESD Talent. And I just decided to make the transition. I was presented with an opportunity to be a partner at Cope, and I had tremendous respect for Debbie Cope for a long, long time. And it just seemed too good to be true. And I get to work with agents still, which is great. And it's a smaller, more concentrated roster. My favorite part of representation is always that kind of one-on-one, hands-on relationship. And I felt like for me personally, I was getting pulled in a lot of different directions as an agent. You know, by necessity, you have to take on a lot of talent and service a lot of different needs. But with management, you can be a little bit more focused. And so it's been a really good transition and very smooth transition. And I've just been thrilled to be here.
For some folks, it's just a big mystery. What does a manager do? What does an agent do? Sumeet, what would you be doing on a day-to-day basis? You wake up, check emails, you book gigs. Tell us what a typical day might be.
Well, yeah, so it's similar in that we do have castings and we submit our talent. What I do and what my partner Jeff does, I mean, I'm not really even exaggerating, all day is pretty much marketing. So we're reaching out to contacts, fortifying contacts that we've had. Cope has, over 30 years has unique relationships with buyers. We're, making sure those are maintained and getting new opportunities and pitching our clients to them, whether it's going out to coffee with networks and studios and talking about our talent, whether it's digging up new opportunities. And we, also have, like I said, we have great relationships with agents. If our talent wants to make transitions or moves, we can facilitate that. We're there for guidance. We're there for support. We're kind of a PR firm as well. So it encompasses a lot more than just auditions and bookings, although that is a big part of what we do. And then, so basically the short answer to your question is every day is a little bit different, but a lot of it is spent towards marketing and trying to, finding out who's working on a new show, who's working on the trailer campaign for a movie, who's working on a campaign for a commercial, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of research, a lot of pitching.
So can a business be an agent and a manager, or is that illegal? I remember this coming up a few years ago that you can't do that. You have to be one or the other. Is that true, or is that a California thing, or how does that work?
I think it's a California thing, and it may apply everywhere else. I do, and this again is, I think what has kind of confused a lot of people, because there are people who, are really more agents, I think, and they present themselves as a manager. Maybe, I'm speculating, but maybe they just couldn't get a license as an agent. I don't know. But there are also, agencies that are smaller and kind of are a little bit more like a manager. So it really is important, I think, for an actor to do their research, talk to people who are represented there, find out what their whole story is. It's surprising to me, even at this stage, people who are very, very successful, you're really supposed to only be with one agent in at least geographically. And sometimes they'll sign up with multiple ones because one is presenting themselves as a manager or vice, but they're not really, so there's a lot of confusion out there. And, I know that we're very strictly defined in terms of what we do. And we don't want to step on agencies' toes, and we certainly don't want to put the actors in the middle. That happens a lot too, I feel like, and that's something we definitely don't want to do.
Wasn't Debbie the first manager as well?
Yes. Yeah. And really a trailblazer. And again, it was uncharted territory and all of that stuff.
Wait, what do you mean Debbie was the first manager?
First voiceover manager.
Oh, okay.
1990, yeah.
In all of the land?
Yes.
Wow.
All of the land.
Good for her. What a trailblazer, yeah.
Exactly. And she was an agent for a long time, wanted to start her own business and really create this kind of niche, and has really focused largely on promo and trailer, and been able to supplement a lot of careers, make a lot of careers. And that continues to this day. So we've had people who've been there for a very, very long time, and were really put on the map by Debbie. But yeah, she was really kind of the first one, and kind of, I think, proved that it could be a successful model.
That's incredible. And Sumeet, first off, let me apologize on Bobby's behalf, because she's asking the tough questions. We implied that this was going to be a fun, loose interview. But Bobby's coming in hot.
It
with
turned
these
into
tough
60
questions.
minutes all of a sudden. Yeah.
I'm not a morning person. Sorry. I just get a little grumpy in the morning. Don't go anywhere. The Making Waves VO podcast returns in a moment.
Hi, this is Kate Neeland, voiceover actor, the one with the microphone. And you are listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby, you lucky, lucky sausage. I love them. I love them so much. Enjoy.
Bobby. So, we've been talking about a lot on podcasts lately about the quality of our audio and what can be a death knell for a voice actor if they have audio quality that is not up to snuff, up to par, as good as everybody else. Oh my gosh, what do we do, Bobby, if we're not sure about our audio quality?
Well, you go to the experts, of course. And I'm talking about the folks at fullcompass.com. Not only do they know the equipment, but they know the business and they've been doing this for decades and decades. So when you go on social media and say, okay, who has this microphone, or what do you think? Why not just call fullcompass.com and say, tell me about this microphone, or how can I improve my sound if it's doing this? I'm telling you, they know their stuff.
They do know their stuff. Like, let's say you're in your booth and you're getting some echoes or a little bit too much reflection. Talk to the folks at Full Compass, because they can say, hey, let's do a little test. Let's hear how things are sounding. And they may go, oh, you need some new bass traps, or oh, you need some foam, or hey, maybe you'd be interested in this new microphone. P.S., Bobby,
Yeah?
at Full Compass right now, they are having a fall clearance sale.
There you go.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Up to 88% off. Up to 88% off right now at Full Compass. And now I'm not talking about just, rando stuff. I'm talking about they've got Neumann microphones on sale. They've got Focusrite interfaces on sale. They've got Shure interfaces on sale. Everything a voice actor needs, chances are you're going to find it on sale right now at Full Compass.
Fullcompass.com. They also do packages that they put together where you can get even more savings. So go check them out. Fullcompass.com.
Click on the banner that says Fall Clearance Sale, and then you can sort the pages. You can display it however you want to, but make sure you check it out. Make sure your sound is up to snuff, up to par, up to being as good as everybody else. Like Bobby said, go to Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know PO.
Making Waves returns. And speaking of representation, so there's all kinds of facets of representation, and I know folks that will, hang their hat with a certain LA agent or a certain New York agent, and then they will have all of their wares, all of their genres within those agents. But I've also heard modern representation where they might just say, hey, come on board for a genre or two. Like, for instance, the promo documentary trailer. That could be like its own set. Does Cope offer signings to those kinds of folks with just certain genres that would preclude other genres?
No, we want them across the board, but I will say we're very upfront about this. I came on board and I was a commercial agent for a long time. And then I also started working on video games, and I've been able to bring a lot of those relationships over to Cope. We don't work in traditional animation, and it's just not something that we pursued. And we may do that at some point in the future, who knows? But I think largely, again, because we've focused so much as a company on promo and trailer, that our talent roster is sort of geared towards that. And so we are upfront about that, but we do want to work with people across the board as a manager, and again, because we work with so many agents so well, if there's an area that they maybe are looking to supplement, we can kind of have those conversations or strategize who might be the best partner to work with them. But, in terms of agencies, I think a lot of the more established agencies still will not represent you sort of a la carte like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe in a regional way that works, but I do think it gets a little tricky. And the truth of the matter is, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, because I feel like, the grass is always greener. So when people are looking at another agency, in their current agency, and maybe, I'm not getting these opportunities, but maybe if I go here, I'll get those opportunities. That there's always going to be that element, I think, at any agency that you go to, because you're dealing with a lot of people, and a whole team, and so just be aware of that. Like, just be aware of what your strengths are, and are you being serviced properly at the place that you currently are, because you may not get those opportunities at a different place. So, again, I think a lot of the more established agencies, the agencies who've been around for a long time, do want you across the board. So that's something to factor in when you're deciding what agency to go to or what management company to go to.
So with that being said, you have the typical, like you said, promo, trailer, commercial. Do you see your genre list growing? Because there just seems to be so many new genres, just exploding. Audiobooks, political. How does that look for Cope in the future?
Well, we are we are growing. We do again have a very concentrated roster. We've taken on some new people, more so because I think just the diversity of talent, and not just only ethnically, but also just even in terms of age range and things like that. But so we do want to have a more well-rounded roster to be able to service all of those needs. Bobby, you and I met obviously because we have made political work a big focus of what we're working on this year and into the future. We're relatively new to pursuing this, and we've had some success that we're very happy about. But what we were talking about with Jeff and I and the other folks at COPE is that there's political work even between these general elections. There's propositions and runoffs and things like that. So we're in it for the long haul. So that is an area that we're aggressively pursuing, and we're pursuing corporate narration and things like that as well. Audiobooks is not something that we have typically pursued, but is something that we're happy to entertain or service on behalf of people as needed. So yeah, I think you kind of have to diversify these days because there's so much more competition, and I think you can't necessarily be in one niche completely anymore. We had the 2 strikes last year, and I think that really kind of and because we were diversifying and had diversified, we were not as impacted as other companies were. But that was just kind of a confirmation that it is important to make sure you have access to a lot of different areas.
You mentioned a moment ago, one of your strengths, one of COPE's strongholds has always been promo and trailer. I wanted to ask you specifically, Sumeet, about trailer work. Is the voiceover world in terms of trailer and movie marketing in trouble?
That's a really good question. I think it's definitely less than it used to be. And I think post-pandemic, it's funny because you get like these moments where like Barbie comes out or Oppenheimer, and then you think, oh, okay, great. And then a couple months go by and it's not quite the same. And I just think it's adapting. I do see, there is still quite a bit of work out there. I think that it will be less, and it is less than it was historically. And I always feel like trailer is one of those areas in voiceover that is probably one of, if not the hardest area to break into, because it does seem like they seem to use the same 3 or 4 guys, but I think, as more people get into it on the marketing side and on the hiring side, then hopefully that will change, and the opportunities will increase for other voice talent. But it is definitely changing. And it's like anything else. I mean, even commercials, and, you just have to book more. I remember national network campaigns used to be, tens of thousands of dollars. One commercial could potentially make you tens of thousands of dollars. And now the media buys are different, and now it's going online, which pays less. And so you just have to book more commercials to kind of get the same amount. And I feel like trailer is kind of like that too.
Well, you mentioned at the top that you keep your roster small, especially compared to some other managers. What are the benefits to that? And are there any negatives on either side, talent and manager?
Well, I think the benefit for the talent is that we can focus more on them, and that they're not, we don't want to take on people that sound similar. We try not to. And I think we can kind of have more of a hands-on relationship with them. It does make it harder, I think, for the talent to join us. But, we just want to make sure that, that was, again, the model of the company. And that has been the thing that has persisted, I think, throughout all these years, is that we really are not an agency. We're not just sort of, you're not just a number to us. You're a person with a voice and with an actual thing that we can sell, as opposed to throwing a lot of stuff against the wall. I just, and it also, I think, keeps us focused on you as a talent. I think that if we took on a lot of people, we're just worried that you would get lost in the shuffle as a talent,
Sure.
So I think that's really it.
Hi, this is Nazia Chaudhry. You're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby.
We're talking with Sumeet Lyengar, partner for Cope Management. Sumeet, thanks again for being on with us. I want to talk about sexy voiceover and sexy voiceover genres. So we know that, promo, trailer, animation, all very sexy VO genres. But what to you, or what is a VO genre that is not so sexy, but it is a financially good voiceover genre in your eyes?
Oh, interesting. I think that, a lot of people do very well with corporate narration, these internal things, and they kind of use you over and over again. Nobody ever really hears you. And that's something that like I said, we've been pursuing a lot of. Commercials, I think insurance commercials and drug commercials, those are the two best ones. I mean, so reading these long disclaimers about these horrible diseases, side effects, that can actually be very, very lucrative. Even
True.
if you're talking about gastrointestinal diseases or something, I was mentioning this recently. One of the very first commercials that I booked as an agent, this was, 18 years ago, maybe, was a commercial for, I don't even think you hear about this condition anymore, restless leg syndrome.
Yeah, RLS.
Yes, exactly. And I had a woman who booked one commercial for it. Again, very, very long disclaimer, and one commercial, and she made 6 figures off that commercial.
Wow.
So those are the ones that we really pursue. And again, people make fun of it. I remember that particular commercial was showcased on The Daily Show.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, and because they were making fun of the side effects, and I think the side effects were something like increased gambling and loss of sexual inhibition. And so they were like, and then of course Jon Stewart makes his face and stuff like that. I'm like, this is kind of cool. But again, is that sexy? Probably not, but it's definitely lucrative.
I love it because sometimes sex can be a gamble.
True. Yeah. I did a mesothelioma tag. Gosh, this has been probably 5 years ago. And I remember being surprised. He kept coming back for more and more tags because they had to hit every market. And you're right. It can be very lucrative.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's somebody who we have that they're constantly having to re-record because the FDA has to update, so even just in sessions, that's quite a bit,
Oh, I've got a medical running now that's been running a couple of years, and it's it's a bent penis, if we're just being honest. But it's I play a role in one of those spots, but I got booked for it. And I'm like, oh, this is a pretty fair gig, and then it renewed, and I'm like, oh, even more. Didn't have to do a thing, and then so the medical stuff can be very financially rewarding.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, what does it take to be added to a management company, and Cope in particular? Is it something that only you do? You pursue a talent? Do you have to get a referral? Do people submit? How does that work?
Well, all different ways. And I will say that I'll admit this, when I was an agent, you can imagine we're inundated with demos and things a lot of the time. And I do try to listen to them. And if I was interested, I would follow up. And if I wasn't, I would just sort of let it go. And, I know that must be difficult for the actor, but I will say, one thing that Debbie is really, really good about, and I'm trying to be better about, is anybody who submits to Cope will get a response. It may take a couple weeks. We may not take you on, but at least there's, we will listen and get back to you. So we get a lot of submissions, as you can imagine. Referrals definitely help. Referrals from one of our talent or referrals from an agent. We have conversations with agents about what, where we share information in terms of like, well, I need this, do you know anybody like this? And, we have those conversations and often get referrals that way. I would say in terms of what we're looking for, there is, again, a perspective that it's something that we don't have that we think is viable. We would like to have people who are established talent, who are bookers, in other words, there's a work ethic and ambition and drive that we know, because of where they are, and also that they're ready. And maybe they're at a point in their career where they are not getting certain opportunities that we could give them. We don't want to just take on somebody who's successful and just sort of cash in on their 10%. We actually feel guilty about that. We want to grow your career.
How refreshing.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it's about building a long-term relationship, right? I mean, I've been at this long enough where I know that, when you start out young, I think every agent or manager who starts out is really hungry and wants to book everything and wants to please the buyer. And you learn, hopefully over time, that the long-lasting relationship with your talent. So you have to do what they want to do, and everything is for them. If they don't want to do something, you have to respect that. If they, aren't available, or that's okay. You are really working for them. You're not working for the buyer. And once I started to figure that out, then it does become about, okay, what can I do for this talent, and not just cash in on their commission. So we want to be able to add to your career. If we feel like we can't, then even, you could be very uber successful and it just wouldn't be a good fit. I think it just wouldn't be a long-term relationship that would be mutually beneficial. And we want you to be ready. So, we, particularly with promos and trailers, they're on such a very quick deadline. And they don't have time to do a bunch of takes. They want 1 or 2 takes. We want to know that if we book you on a show, that you're ready to go and that you're going to make us look good. So it's all of those kinds of factors. Having said that, if it's somebody who's new and they've blown us away with their perspective, or we really believe they can grow into that person, we're willing to take chances on them as well.
In the Making Waves VO podcast, we'll be right back.
Hello, this is Rebecca Lee. Psych, girl, let me stop playing. It's me, Rebecca Lee. You're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby.
Full Compass is your one-stop destination for cutting-edge audio, video, and lighting solutions. With nearly 50 years of industry expertise, we offer a vast selection of high-quality equipment, from microphones, recording interfaces, and software, to audio accessories, monitors, headphones, and other pieces to help you find your ideal sound. Our trained product experts are here to help every step of the way with unmatched customer service. You'll also get free same-day shipping, flexible financing options, and a low price guarantee. Visit us online at fullcompass.com or call 800-356-5844 today.
And now back to Making Waves. I wanted to share something with you because I don't think I told you this when I met you in Washington, D.C. About 3 or 4 years ago, I submitted to COPE. And no lie, within 10 minutes, Debbie called me, and I was like, wow. It was premature on my part. I wasn't ready. But that just doesn't happen. So kudos. What you just said is very true. And congrats on having that.
Yeah. I mean, it is really, again, I've learned so much from her, but that is something I really admire for, because it really does, again, you guys know, you sort of spend your whole day in a booth and you send out these auditions and you never hear back unless you get an avail or booking. So it can be very lonely, and you don't necessarily know if you're doing something right or wrong. So I think it is important to at least hear from somebody.
What we love about people like you, Sumeet, is you are doing right. You're doing right by the talent. And you said earlier that marketing is something you focus on daily. I want to get the temperature of the buyers and the creators and those that are doing the hiring, your clients. What is the temperature in terms of rates right now and in terms of AI? Are they fighting the rate structure that we have, that we're all trying to maintain and get to go up in some form or fashion, or are they okay with the professionalism with which you provide the talent and they're cool with the rates? And then sprinkle some AI in there too, please.
Sure. Well, I think as far as the rates, I mean, it's just wildly all over the place. And one of the things that I'm getting a little bit more comfortable about doing as a manager, when I was an agent, I always felt like I have a fiduciary responsibility to the talent. And even though I don't think it's a particularly good rate, I don't know what the talent's, rent situation is or what their finances are, and I have to present it to them. And I would often say, look, I don't think you should do this, but if you are going to do this, and plus they may be getting it from another agency or something like that. I've gotten a little bit more comfortable, and I've had those conversations with the talent of, where is your threshold? Do you have a threshold? And what, and basically turning things down on behalf of the talent. I don't always do that, but the truth is the rates tend to be all over the place, and we push back as much as we can. And I think we've had some success doing that. So, but generally, I think, I don't know the exact percentage, but I think most of them tend to fall within a reasonable guideline. The discouraging thing, I think, to some degree, is that and I knew this would happen when they passed that low budget waiver in SAG a number of years ago, companies that were happy to pay the made for internet rates now realize they could pay less. And I don't know that they necessarily got in new work that would have been non-union. So frequently I see non-union rates that are actually better than union rates, which is crazy. I saw a Super Bowl commercial. I read in the trades that this advertising agency got a Super Bowl commercial. And so I contacted a producer and I was like, I'd love to have our talent audition for this. And he says, I'm shooting it now. We'll cast in January. And then he sent me an email and he said, do you represent non-union talent? And my heart sank because like, this is a Super Bowl commercial. But I said, yeah, sure, we do. And he sent it to me. And the funny thing was, because of the script, I could tell that this was a commercial that was only ever going to air during the Super Bowl. And yet it technically, if it was a union commercial, they would have paid a scale session fee and that would cover the one use and that would be done. But they were actually offering more money on a non-union contract. So, I find that a lot of our job is educating buyers about what a proper rate is. Sometimes they just don't know. And sometimes they're open to it. And they'll do what they can. And they really do fight for us and fight for our talent. Sometimes their budget is their budget and there's no wiggle room. So it really just kind of goes all over the map. Yeah, as far as the AI piece, I think they're still figuring it out. I do think that it will be a part of the industry going forward. I think they're trying to their credit, some of the buyers that I've talked to have said, yes, we will use it. We don't know how yet. And we want to make sure that the actor is compensated fairly. I've had buyers say that. I do think it's going to require a lot of vigilance on our part, on your agent's part, on your part. There was an actress you probably know recently talked about being in a session and the engineer said, oh, the studio was trying to get us to use AI for this pickup instead. So we just have to watch out for that kind of stuff, and really try to push back as much as possible.
There's a new online voice talent roster just starting up, and they are going to include the actual talent, and then on the same website, the AI voices. And so they're all in one, the client can choose either one. Do you see that becoming more of a thing, or do you think would you ever see Cope, 10 years from now, being able to use an AI version of their talent?
I don't know. I think that's, we've had talent ask us about that.
Yeah.
Like they want to be ahead of it, if it happens. I think that's certainly a possibility, not necessarily even for Cope, but I think, I've had conversations with other people and saying, even maybe some agencies might even do that down the road. And I know there are sites that are trying to establish a library of talent. I would just, there are just certain things that you just have to watch out for and make sure that the actor has permission over their voice being used. make sure that the rates are fair. I just think that, that human element can't be replicated yet. So I think if it gets to the point where it is, then I think you might start to see a little bit more of that. But, there's going to be ancillary drawbacks to it that, one of the things that we do a lot of is that we do voice matching for trailers. So in other words, if they can't get an actor or they're trying to tell the story through the 2.5-minute trailer and have the actors communicate what's going on. And sometimes there are lines that they've never actually said, so they'll hire a voice match artist to do that. My concern is maybe at some point they start using AI for Brad Pitt instead of hiring a voice actor to do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe they start saying, okay, well, we need somebody to dub this voice, but we haven't figured out the script yet. Let's use AI to figure out the script, and then we'll hire the actor. And typically an actor would have gotten paid all those session fees previously. So I just think that it's going to be, again, it's like everything else. It's like when commercials started going to the internet, everything kind of got squeezed down a little bit. So I think it's like everything else in this industry. We just have to learn to adapt to it.
Hi, hello, greetings, salutations, howdy. This is Rob Reed, Austin-based voice actor, and you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Sumeet, we're going to let you go here in just a minute, but I did want to ask, is there a better time of the year for we voice talents to pitch to representation?
That's a really good question. I think that, summer tends to be a little bit slower. I think in our area, before the fall shows start casting, specifically in promo, before the back to school stuff for commercials, that might be a really good time. I think even beginning of the year might be a good time, but you'll probably get inundated with stuff. I'm just, I think that it just depends. And it depends on the particular company, right? I always tell this to actors. It's like, do your research, because not everybody needs everything. So figure out what an agency needs if you're a good fit for them. Figure out what a management company needs, if you're a good fit for them. And I think that might be a better way to approach who you approach and when you approach them. I would say just sort of hard and fast things. Send us your demos maybe in the afternoon, like not right in the morning when we're sort of catching up on emails, not on a Friday, where we're heading into our weekend. Those are just kind of the basics, I think. But yeah, I think the bigger thing I would say is really do the research on the company that you want to apply to or submit to, and see if it's a good fit and see what their needs are. Because everybody's needs are going to be different.
Do you take vacations? Because I know when as talent, we're like, we take our gear with us a lot of time. How about you?
I do, and I have a really terrific partner and team at Cope, but I still check my emails. I just can't
At poolside, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're addicted.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Well, did you have a chance to think about a possible nightmare session story? And no worries if you don't have one you can share.
Nightmare Sessions.
Yeah, no, I have one. There was a talent that we had that, in fact, I'll tell you two. One has a happy ending, and then I'll tell you the original one, which is we had talent who went into a session at a studio where they had a beer fridge and whiskey, and the whiskey, and this was, a number of years ago.
I'm listening.
Yeah. And that the alcohol is really there because they would bring buyers in, right? And sometimes they would be in the session and it was sort of catering to them. But, this guy wanted some whiskey before his session, took a glass of whiskey, ordered a beer, during the session, kept, motioning to the engineer to get him another beer.
Oh my God.
So the buyer, he got through the session. The buyer ended up calling us and explaining everything that happened. We had to have we talked to the studio, and the studio confirmed everything. and we ended up bringing him into the conference room and and he was embarrassed and everything. And I don't know what it was. I think he was a younger guy and maybe thought, oh, this is the big time and this is how voice actors act. And, or maybe he just, had a problem. I don't know. But that was probably the nightmare session. It was
wow. Did the end product work out okay though?
Well, that particular session did. I don't think that they ever hired him again.
Oh, wow.
It was a recurring gig, and that was the sad thing. It was just, but again, there are things that I'm surprised I think are common sense, but
exactly.
that not to be. The other one that was a nightmare that turned into a positive that I'll mention, because one of my first big campaigns, I booked a talent who was doing a kind of motherly read, which was a very different read for her. And that's what the direction was. And they created these spots and the spots started airing and they were beautiful. And, but apparently the company's stock price started to slip. So I get a phone call from the producer and they said, well, listen, I hate to do this to you, but we're replacing your talent. They wanted to go in a more retail-y direction. And I said, well, but that's what she does. Like the read that you directed for is actually a very different read for her. She can do this. I mean, if you have a script, I can have her read it for you. And the producer said, okay, well, here's the script. I need it. We have a client meeting in an hour. So I called my talent. To her credit, didn't start, panicking or anything. I just said, look, you need to reread this. They want to go in a retail direction, blah, blah, blah. She was like, got it. Worked on the script. Sent it over to me. I sent it to them. The producer calls me back a couple hours later and says, so we played her audition for the CMO of the company and for all the marketing executives. And the CMO said, now, see, that's who we should be hiring.
Oh, no.
So she
what a
kept
great
the account.
story.
Yeah, she kept the account. So that was, one of my favorites.
It drives us, especially on the voice actor side, it drives us nuts whenever something like that happens and they go, well, we just need to get a different voice. No, we're actors. We're very directable. We can do these things. And thank you for standing up for your talent. That's what we want. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, I know what you guys can do. And, and it is frustrating because sometimes they'll direct you out of a gig. They'll they need to have their feedback and then sometimes it's the wrong feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this has been such a pleasure. Sumeet Lyengar from Cope Management, partner with Cope. It's been a blast. I don't know if, do you want anybody to submit to you right now? Would you rather put that off? Do you want to put out your contact details at all?
You can go to voexpress.com, my email, and everything is there and all our information. And like I said, we do listen to stuff. It just may not be a good fit. We may have your POV covered or something like that, but you never know, It
was great to get to know even more about you, Sumeet. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sumeet. Have a great one. So informative. You mentioned it, Bobby. He's just seems like a really cool, down-to-earth guy. You don't always get that with representation. And it's not anything, untowards on their part. They're just so busy, and they've got to be tired of getting hounded and pestered from folks like us.
Yeah. But you know what I love and what I'm walking away from? They really, really put the talent first in every walk of their business.
I love that.
Mean, yeah, I'm just impressed. It's like you said before, it's very, very refreshing. So good on them.
Yeah, good stuff. Another successful podcast in the books, Bobby. You know what I'm excited about? Our guest next week is a lady that, I don't know, she's been doing it a long time and she's been very successful, but she's also been very giving to the voiceover community. We're going to have the esteemed voiceover actor Kay Bess on the next Making Waves VO podcast.
I can't wait. I remember when she was the speaker at VO Atlanta, the main one. And I was just like in awe of what she's done, and she's so soft-spoken, but she's so powerful. So can't wait.
Yeah, I want to ask her about the recent documentary she did for Shark Week on the mother sharks, and it was she was the perfect voiceover for that. And it was just she told a compelling story, and want to talk to her a little bit about that and other things. And then she does some coaching, and she does so much. And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, good stuff, Bobby. Good to talk to you.
You too.
The Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.